This is not Bob Staunton, genius broadcaster and throat-clearing phlegm spitter. Are you intelligent? If not, then subscribe and like the Tommy Boyds Shrine YouTube channel. This show introduces a theory why people choose the same gender for relationships. Personally, I'm not fussed who it is, as long as they've showered and brushed their teeth and cleaned their bottom.
The Tommy Boyds Show.
This must be where pies go when they die.
You're the most cold-blooded man I've ever seen.
How can you have any meat if you don't eat your pudding?
The Tommy Boyds Show.
Back and to the left. Yeah.
The show with more endurance than radiation itself.
You say either, and I say either.
Apparently official.
Stand by, please.
Tommy Boyds.
Apparently official.
Have you no compassion?
Stand by, please.
Let's rehang the pictures from the gallery of life.
There is no escaping here.
Tommy Boyds.
Cabin doors automatic. Morning. Now, it's very rare that this cherished and chosen medium, radio, is given an opportunity to present first to the world what amounts to a global scoop. But I seriously and honestly think that the information that I'm privileged to put before you this afternoon will be the talking point around planet Earth sometime in the next 3 to 6 weeks, when the figures have finally been collated, the information and the numbers have finally been crunched. It is, I think, an extraordinary and yet at the same time very satisfying, very futuristic. There's something of the millennium about this discovery, which, as I say, is not yet proven, but I still feel that we have enough to go on for me to put it before you this afternoon for your consideration. The telephone number is free call 0500 10 53 89, but belay that dialing finger, because what I have to put before you is quite complex, and in many ways will make many changes. It comes from the American New Delhi Research Educational Association, which is based in, it has several locations in this country, in America, and also in India. Their purpose is to further the understanding which is developing between Western and Eastern culture. Western and Eastern philosophy, religion, medicine, and so forth. Now, the highly illuminating research, which I'd like you to think about this afternoon, if you would be so good and kind, and perhaps consider providing us on the radio with your first reaction and perhaps also your considered reaction, and you may like to addend your call with your suggestions for the way forward with this set of thinking. It concerns some work which was inaugurated by one of the fellows of the American New Delhi Research people, Adita Fromm, who has been working on homosexuality and the causes, if I can use that word, of homosexuality, but from a very positive starting point, examining the values and the virtues of homosexuality, but all the while seeking to establish that there could be a concrete, valid reason for homosexuality. And we're all familiar with the argument that it appears to be purposeless in the great scheme of things. This was one tranche of research and investigation which was being carried out by the association. And simultaneously, along the corridor, if you like, another project was underway. And this was a project to establish whether science is able to prove, or perhaps less than prove, perhaps accept that evidence exists to validate the notion, which is dear to at least two of the world's major religions, we must remember, as well as many, many private philosophies, and that is the idea of what we call in this country reincarnation. This was a bolder and broader project and had been installed for some years at the association. So you have on the one hand Dieter Fromm working on the values and the virtues and the reasons and the causes of homosexuality, and you have at the same association but functioning independently an investigation into reincarnation. Now, as I said, although in this country, in the West, reincarnation is viewed somewhat cynically by a great many people, particularly people with scientific background, in many places in the East, and for hundreds of millions of people, reincarnation is a simple fact of existence. It's central to two of the world's major religions in that part of the world, as well as a number of smaller religions and private philosophies. But one common idea, which marbles through a great many religions and philosophies which embrace reincarnation, is that one's immortal soul makes perhaps 6, 7, 8 or 9 visits to planet Earth inhabiting different bodies before it is able to go on elsewhere. Now, where that is, few religions are prepared to be precise, and where the immortal soul has come from leaves, if there are experts in the field, those experts even at more of a loss. However, this work is going on, looking for scientific validation of the concept of reincarnation. And one of the key tools which was employed at the American New Delhi Research Association is regression. This happens through a process of one particular type of hypnosis, which was devised by a psychologist called Erickson. Ericksonian hypnosis, hypnotherapy it can be called, is used to regress people, and some people are able to report in great detail previous existences. And when people are successfully regressed and are able to report about their previous existences, they are able to note that they speak different languages. They might have been a Portuguese sailor in a previous life. They might have been a Japanese soldier in a previous life. They discover that they are proficient in a great many different skills. They might be a panel beater now in 1998 in Coventry, but they will find that in a previous existence that they were a woodcarver, something they'd never turned their hand to, but yet found when regressed that the person that they were, who was a woodcarver, was good at woodcarving, and they themselves understood and were proficient in the skill. So languages, skills. There are a great many differences between the different people that people appear to have been in previous lives, except for one crucial fact. And it was at this point that the research between the two projects began to dovetail. Few, if any, people successfully regressed reported that in a previous life they had been a member of the opposite sex. Men, when regressed, reported that almost always they were men. Women, when regressed, reported that in almost all of their previous lives they were women. However, the project went on to regress a number of people who were openly homosexual. And the figure is put at the moment, although the numbers haven't been crunched, at something like 70 to 75% of those men who were openly homosexual, who were regressed, who reported that in a previous life they had been a woman. Which has led the researchers now to bring their two projects together and to begin to get out into the open for public consideration and consent the notion that if reincarnation is a fact of our existence, and if we experience between half a dozen and a dozen different lives here on Earth, if our immortal soul wishes to experience life as a member of the opposite gender, in other words, if we are a male immortal soul but we wish to find out what it is like to be a female immortal soul, a transitory period of existence is necessary. And when we are living that transitory period, that transitory life, we are homosexual. Free call 0500 10 53 89. The evidence at this stage is, and probably always will be, largely non-statistical, because as with most areas of psychology, although it is very exhaustive, it's primarily observational and anecdotal. But the concept is now public, as of 3 o'clock this afternoon. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There is a good argument for listening.
Tommy Boyd. It's time to poison the water hole.
Cutting edge.
Tommy Boyd sucks less.
You know, I don't want to bring this up, but you've been treating a lot of people with a lot of disrespect.
Well, from time to time, yes, but from time to time, one has to put one's surgical gloves back on and treat everybody with the greatest possible respect. Now, the switchboard is jumping, but let me make something absolutely clear. I do feel that the complexities and the nuances of the concept, which I want to talk about this afternoon with your complicity, are so many and so great that, quite honestly, people who were calling the program and wishing to make their views known before I'd even had an opportunity to explain in full this concept, series of concepts, complex concepts, really would have to accept that they can't have been listening throughout because they were dialing and phoning. So if you've been dialing and you've got the engaged, I'd still like you to stop and think about what we're talking about this afternoon, because it really is quite earth-shattering, and there may be a great deal to it. Free call 0500 10 53 89. The concept is straightforward. It was necessary to outline the history of the project before I arrived at its conclusions. But the conclusions, again, they begin with a maybe. The key conclusion is as follows. Maybe a homosexual life is a life in a succession of lives led by a reincarnated soul. A homosexual life is a life led in transition from one gender to another. Free call 0500 10 53 89. John in London has given this one some thought and come to the phone. John, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Tommy. Tom, I don't think the reincarnation theory computes. Originally, the human species would have numbered what would you have said originally? Pick a figure out of the air.
Why?
Because...
What good would that do if I picked a figure out of the air?
Yeah, let's say there were 10,000 human beings to begin with. I'm just picking a figure out of the air. Of the 5 billion that exist now, there would be 10 or 10 to the power of 10.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm with you. I see what you're saying, yes.
Yeah, there would be 10 to the power of 10.
Yes, you're saying that the proliferation of the human race means that that reincarnation mathematically can't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right. How many ghosts are there for each of us who are alive today?
How many ghosts are there?
You know that number. 7.
Oh, I see. All right. I know you're playing the devil's advocate because...
No, excuse me. There are 7 ghosts for each one of us alive. The number of people who have lived is approximately 7 times the number of people who are alive today.
I come back to my original question then. When the human species became what it is now, in physiological terms, how many were there? And if you multiply that by 7, it still wouldn't compute.
What I said at the beginning of the program is that even those profound proponents of the notion of reincarnation are not prepared to presume to suggest that they know where immortal souls come from in the first place.
Right. Now, if the human species...
Central to your objection is the notion that they begin here on Earth.
Ah, fine. If the human species is just another species of life on the planet Earth, as you believe and as I believe, does reincarnation occur in other animal forms as well? How does that help the concept that we're here to discuss this afternoon? It's rather peripheral, isn't it? It doesn't. It simply isn't. Because are there homosexuals in the animal kingdom? Apparently so. In the same numbers? It doesn't compute, Tom. I'm sorry, why are you... It's absurd. Well, you see, the thing is, John, it does strike you as absurd quickly, but really you're nibbling at the coattails of the issue with your rather shallow objections, if I may put it like that. 10% of the human population may be homosexual. Yes. Now, yes, laboratory rats have been shown... It's been shown that laboratory rats under duress might exhibit some homosexual behavior. That's what you're referring to. Yes. Yes.
Apparently there are homosexual tendencies in apes. Yes. And gorillas as well.
Yes, but I'm going to have to start patronising you in a second if you're not careful, because you're not really terribly tooled up, are you? Are you suggesting that 10% of apes are homosexual? No, you're not, are you?
I'm saying that if... I'm surprised at myself having this conversation, because I know it.
I am too, really.
I know you picked I'm
not sure if you're up to it, frankly, but never mind.
No, I am up to it. I think you picked the most absurd things and put them forward just to see how many. Do you have any
idea how cruel you're being to 10% of the population listening, and to all my Hindu and Shinto followers who are listening?
Well,
who are comfortable about their sexuality and happy about their religion?
So you're not? Don't you think you're being a little bit patronising to them?
Now you're calling homosexuality absurd and reincarnation absurd, and the suggestion that the pair of them might go hand in hand together also absurd. Shooting from the hip. Why? Because you don't want to do the work. You're like so many people who aren't prepared to consider a new concept. Why? Because it means that you've got to do a bit of elbow work, doesn't it? You've actually got to do some thinking. You've got to actually take on board new information and new ideas, and you'd far rather lie on the sofa, wouldn't you, pal?
I don't think homosexuality is absurd, but to link homosexuality with reincarnation is absurd.
Another lost soul. I hope he never comes back. It's obviously his first trip here. I believe that perhaps the human soul might be charged with one job on Earth, and that is to achieve wisdom. So it's probably John's first trip. And he's not getting on very well, is he? Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There is a good argument for listening.
Against the powerful and the fraudulent.
Talk Radio.
Nudge, nudge.
Who's the target?
Good afternoon. If you've just arrived at the radio, we're discussing some research which is being filtered out. At the moment, it's largely under wraps, but I find it absolutely fascinating, and we're grateful to Dieter Fromm of the American New Delhi Research Educational Association, who's been looking into the causes, the reasons for homosexuality from a positive point of view, examining its values and its virtues, and whose work has embraced the work of another project at the association, which has been looking from a scientific point of view into the notion of reincarnation. And what they're coming up with is the possibility that homosexuality could be a transitory stage of the immortal soul, which might have lived several lives as a male and now wishes to experience life as a woman before that soul completes its visit to Earth. Of course, some people who are openly homosexual may be prepared to report on whether or not homosexuality can be transitory in itself, and that a person might become more homosexual through their lives, if you understand what I might mean, or less homosexual in their lives. Free call 0500 10 53 89. In which case, in order to mix that into the theories which are being discussed this afternoon, it could be that a man who was not particularly gay in early life, but becomes camper and more homosexual in later life, is someone who was a man in a previous life, and in their next life they're going to be a woman. But now we're into the florid territory of speculation. Sam calls from Norfolk. You're on Talk Radio. Sam, good afternoon. Sam, hello.
Hello?
Sam, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
I was very interested to hear what you were talking about. A couple of years back, I was reading a book that was written in the 40s and 50s about this exact subject.
Really?
Saying that about the reincarnation and sort of balancing the sexes. And it was actually written by a person called Alice Bailey.
What's this book called?
It was Problems of the Sexes.
Do you have a copy?
I have a copy, but I haven't got it at hand at the moment because I'd have to go charging around the house.
Understood. How did you come by the book?
Well, I've always been interested in her books, and I've got most of them anyway. And some of the things that they came up with it was stemmed from, I know this is going to sound a bit strange, and you have to take it as a hypothesis to work on, that it stemmed from the Atlantean times, when we were immensely oversexed because we were so emotional. And so a lot of the homosexuality we have today sort of stems from that time.
Well, I was very interested whilst I was enjoying a biography of the author Lawrence Durrell over the weekend, that he devoted his distinguished life and literary career to an exploration of the relationship between sex and metaphysics. In other words, well, you know, romance and the meaning of life, basically. Yeah. And collaborated with an eminent Chinese scholar called Zhou Chang on a book which became known, I think, as Sex and the Tao of Human Loving. Sam, you read the book.
Yeah.
What are your considered thoughts now on what's being put forward today?
I think there might be some truth behind it. I suppose anything that comes up there is always a seed of truth in it somewhere.
I admire that wisdom.
Oh, well, thank you.
There's something in everything, but no one thing explains it all. No. Jennifer calls now from Cheshire. Jennifer, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tommy.
Hello.
Hi. Given this concept of homosexuality, have you ever thought that maybe, looking to the universe, there could be planets where there's homosexuals? And then that soul, when it dies, comes onto Earth as a woman, homosexual male, and then goes on to somewhere else. You know, have you thought about that?
It's worth thinking about. I would ask the question that would be asked by a type of caller that you get on a show like this from time to time. How would they breed on a homosexual planet?
Oh, yeah? Oh, you clever man. Yeah, and they've thought of that. Unless they've got the same thing.
No. Oscar Wilde had children. You know, there are plenty of people in show business.
Unless they can start off as female and they do the same thing, homosexual, and then they may come down to Earth as a male. It might be ongoing, different stages.
Yes.
You know, might be all in the same process, but different planets. You never know, do you?
No, we never know.
I do think there's an afterlife, but what sort of afterlife? If you sit and think about it.
I don't want to die yet, but I do hope that when I die, then all will be revealed.
Yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it?
Jennifer, thank you very much indeed for your call. And interesting concept. Free call 0500 1053 89. Are homosexuals immortal souls in transit from one gender to another as they live out their 6 to 12 human lives on this planet before going elsewhere? And where would that be? Jason calls from Southampton. Jason, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Tom, how you doing, mate?
Jason, I'm well
Nice to
yourself.
speak to you.
I'm glad you called.
Excellent. Tom, as usual, you're absolutely spot on. I don't know where you get your information from, but you're perfectly clued up. I believe that life is a learning curve, and reincarnation is the key to it all. We need to learn everything there is to be learned about everything in order for it to come to an end, and that means transgenderism and all the rest of it.
Yes.
I would like to add another point to that, and to say that the amount of problems that there are in the world at the moment, via asthma, impotency, various things like that, are all a result of reincarnation. And if I could sort of say about vasectomy, if you have a vasectomy, in your next life when you come back, there's a jolly good chance that you'll be infertile. I believe that what we do now is karmic, and that every move we make today is a result that will catch up on us later on.
I see.
You'll have to excuse me, Tom, I'm a bit nervous.
Jason, you're doing very well. So you're suggesting that perhaps asthma sufferers might have been smokers in a previous life?
Absolutely, Tom. You're absolutely bang on. This is what I'm saying.
Right.
We will eventually kill ourselves via reincarnation.
I see. Have you been regressed, Jason? Do you have any experience of who you might have been in a previous life?
No, never at all, Tom.
No.
I mean, I spent an awful lot of my time, I'm 32 now, but when I was about 18, I spent an awful lot of time looking at alternative beliefs and various religions, and the only one that really sticks true with me is reincarnation, but I'm not a fanatic, I mean, you know, but it just strikes me as a truth.
Jason, I'm very grateful for your call.
Thanks, Tom.
We'll hear your wisdom any time. The number is free call 0500 1053 89. Joan calls now from Cheshire. You're on Talk Radio. Joan.
Hi, Tommy. I was just wondering, when you said before about regression, if somebody has ever been regressed and said they're straight now, but they felt they were homosexual in a previous life.
No, that data isn't out yet.
It's not out.
No, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to the full report.
Yeah.
It's
not out at all.
No. All I have at the moment is is a scant outline from one of the co-authors of the report, who I know from some work that we did many years ago on regression.
I mean, I'd love to be regressed because my son's gay.
You'd love to be regressed because your son's gay?
Yeah, because I want to know how I was, and obviously blood connection, everything. We all want to know what's life, what we were. I mean, if you're a bad person in this life, do you get treated really terrible in the next life?
There is that belief within one school of thought.
I don't know. I think we're here for a purpose. And I was talking about gay people. I mean, my son's brought us extreme pleasure. When he came out, it was a shock, obviously, and we thought it was the end of the world. But it's just fantastic.
If we were to regress your son and were to discover that he was female in his previous life, and that he was going to be a very butch construction worker or something in a future life, then it would explain this transitory phase, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Well,
I mean, he's not camp or anything. It's just that you just wonder, don't you? Really. I mean, I'd love to be regressed anyway. I mean, like you said, most people were found to be female and most were found to be male. But I've actually read about it somewhere, one of these magazines, about people who have actually changed sex. A lady was once regressed. She was a reporter. She didn't believe in it. And it turned out that she said she ended up like a captain on a ship, and she was very butch and masculine with a hairy chest, everything.
Okay. Well, if we were to work with her from a scientific point of view, it would be necessary to establish each of the reincarnations and their chronological timetable. All right?
Yeah.
For us to be certain that she were able to make the switch from being female in one incarnation and male in the next incarnation without a transitory phase. Are you with me?
Sorry about that. I've got the dog barking after next door.
No, I guess that's what it was.
Do we come back as a dog?
Well, again, there are those... Well, now, you see, you raise an interesting point. You raise a very interesting point. Discussion has taken place about the nature of our evolution and the relationship between our evolution from single cell through to human beings and the possible ghosting of a number of our... of the species from which we evolved.
Yes.
I don't know if you ever looked at pictures of how an embryo develops in the womb.
Yeah.
But after about 6 to 9 weeks, it bears an uncanny relationship, doesn't it, to a herring?
I've never noticed a herring. I've noticed like a little baby rabbit curled up.
Yes, it
without
goes,
skin on.
Yes, the embryo in the womb begins life as virtually a single cell life form, and then it becomes vaguely aquatic.
Yes.
And then reptilian, and finally mammalian. Which is exactly the course that human history is alleged by evolutionists to have run.
It's very interesting, but it's also very controversial.
It is, and the complaints are coming in already.
Are they, really?
Yes, Joan, thank you for your call. Alan is next in Essex. Alan, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon. Alan, hello.
Hang on. Yeah, sorry. Hello, Tommy there. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. What I'd like to ask is, if they interviewed, say, a female now that was homosexual and transgressed her into the last life, which she could have been homosexual, then in the previous life, if she was the opposite sex, then that would prove that it was, or not prove that was a homosexual now, sort of in the transitional state.
These are the results that we're looking forward to coming out.
Right.
If those results are as you've outlined them, then I think we're onto something concrete, aren't we?
Yeah. Because if they're being transgressed at the moment, and males recall they've been males in all the past lives.
That's what generally happens. In my experience, and I've regressed a good many clients in my time.
And it sort of suggests that a homosexual now, so a male homosexual recalls all male experiences.
I've never regressed anybody who was openly homosexual. It's not a question you ask.
Right.
Well, until now.
Right.
From this point on in my work, I will.
Yeah.
Are you gay?
No.
No, that's all. No, I wasn't asking that. But now that will be a question that one will ask before regression takes place. With this notion in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be an interesting answer.
Indeed. Alan, thank you for your call. Free call 0500 10 53 89. A great many women, when regressed, recall having been Elizabeth I, which is interesting. Because the possibility is that some powerful souls might somehow replicate and revisit several souls or inhabit several bodies in future existences. Free call 0500 1053 89. And then, of course, there is the old guru's idea that nothing dies because nature wastes nothing. Our bodies aren't wasted when we die, so why should our spirits end? Joe calls from Birmingham. Joe, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon. There, are you all right? I should change to a milder brand if I was you. French ones, were they? Hello, Joe?
Hi!
Hi!
Oh, sorry, they said 10 minutes.
Did they?
Yes. Okay, what I want to say is, don't laugh. Why is it every so often we get all this new research on homosexuality? Why the preoccupation with trying to explain homosexuality? What's the issue?
Well, you know what scientists are like, Joe. They like to try to explain anything, don't they, really?
Well, they like to try and explain everything except heterosexuality. Where's the research on heterosexuality?
Well, I would point you to pretty much any psychology department of any bookshop or library if you really wanted to know where the research was on heterosexuality, Joe. Shall we start with Freud?
Look,
What?
Tommy.
What?
Where is your radio programme? Where is your radio programme?
Still 3 to 5.
Where are all the people...
I know it shifts a bit, but... What?
Where are all the people phoning up
Yes.
from all around the country
Yes.
to look at the evidence and try to explain heterosexuality? They're not, because they haven't got a problem with heterosexuality. Because it's the accepted norm of society.
I know, but it's got some problems that are attached.
But that isn't what we, you know...
How to find girls on a Friday night can be one. You know what I'm saying? It's not easy being heterosexual either, is it?
No, it's not easy being heterosexual.
No. It has one set of problems.
But we're not having radio programmes debating on and trying to explain the causes of heterosexuality.
Yes, we do. We do on this show a lot.
No, we don't.
What do you mean we? You're not on the show. You're just a caller.
Well, I'm listening to
When I say we... Yeah, I suppose it's a bit clubby. When I say we, I mean the powers that are on this programme. We often devote programmes to heterosexuality. Some things are given, I think, don't you, Joe? Some things are given, and the reason why people are...
Tell me what's given.
Right, okay, I think it's a given. It's a given that the reason for heterosexuality amongst living things is the continuation of the species.
Okay, so tell me why people are preoccupied.
Is that accepted? Is that accepted?
I'm not sure. Tell me...
Well, can you suggest another reason, then?
Well, I'm concerned with why people are so concerned about explaining homosexuality.
I know, but you asked me a question. I mean, you could either rubber stamp it, or else we can still kick it around and, you know, find the answer, if that isn't the answer. Is that the reason for heterosexuality?
Well, I'm not concerned about the reason for heterosexuality.
Well, you just asked me why people weren't asking for the causes of heterosexuality. Because it's blooming obvious.
Tommy, I'm not going to criticise...
blooming obvious.
Tommy, I'm not going to criticise
There's no point doing a programme about the blooming obvious, is there? Hey, what's the point of doing a radio programme about the blooming obvious? Oh, Tommy's on again, and he's saying that either Manchester United or Arsenal are probably going to win the Premiership. That's interesting. That's controversial. I'll go down the pub. I'll trot that one out. Somebody will buy me a pint.
Tommy, don't cut me off now, man. You know, I am not criticising you for trying to explain homosexuality. If I'm going to explain heterosexuality, I'm not interested in explaining heterosexuality.
That's why I'm not doing it.
Why you're interested in explaining homosexuality. We can go through all this scientific research about homosexuality, but the fact
Have you rung up for an argument? Have you rung up for an argument, eh?
You know, it's...
Hacking away with your coffee, you stubbed one out just before you got to the phone, didn't you?
Well, you know.
You know.
Come on.
Eh?
So why are we so concerned with explaining homosexuality? I want to know.
Because people want to know if there's a reason for it, or
because people are threatened by it.
No, people want to know
because people are threatened by it.
No, for God's sake, woman, just because people want to know if there's a reason for it. That's why people want to find out if there's a reason for it.
But they're not listening to gay people and to gay people's experiences. They're just getting on the phone.
It doesn't matter.
Coming out with all this homophobic shit about...
It's not homophobic. It's... This report, as I said on a number of occasions and stressed, and God, you're stressed, aren't you? And I stressed that this evaluation of the reasons for homosexuality is proceeding from an extremely positive point of view. emphasising the values and the virtues of homosexuality. What more do you want?
Well, a positive point of view being a transitional period between a heterosexual male to a heterosexual female.
Yes, the implication
putting
is...
the heterosexual male and the heterosexual female up as the norm.
No.
And putting the homosexual...
No, that's your spin on it. That's your black negative spin on it, isn't it? The implication is clear. It is only the highest immortal souls who experience homosexuality, for they are the immortal souls that wish to have a complete experience on Earth before they move on elsewhere. Joe. Free call 0500 1053 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There is a good argument for listening. We're discussing a controversial notion which is about to do the rounds, but you heard it here first. The result of some work at the American New Delhi Research Educational Association, whose purpose is to further the understanding between Eastern and Western culture, philosophy, religion and medicine. They had 2 projects up and running which were found to embrace each other successfully, and hence the notion. One project into the reasons for homosexuality, another project into looking into the scientific validation of the notion of reincarnation. When it was postulated, and the work is now being done, and the work will very soon be made public, that perhaps if we do live 6 to a dozen times on Earth, our immortal soul flitting from one existence and then we die into another body, enjoy that existence and then we die, and having achieved wisdom or greatness as a soul, we go elsewhere, no one's quite sure where. But should the soul choose to experience life both as a woman and as a man, that transition is not easy and has to go via one existence as an in-betweenie. Yeah. And so the question is asked, could this be what is homosexuality, a transitory existence, a portion of an immortal soul's life on Earth? 3 call 0500 1053 89. Erica calls now from Glasgow. Erica, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hi, Tommy.
Hello. The floor is yours.
I actually just tuned into the programme and I was very interested in this homosexuality thing. I honestly believe that it doesn't matter what life or what reincarnation you have, that it is to learn from a past life.
Oh, of course you don't. That isn't the point. The point is that you haven't yet experienced that regression.
No, I haven't.
Now, would you be able to go back to your counsellor or whoever helps you practice your regression?
Yes.
And ask specifically if you could be directed towards that existence, if it ever happened?
Yes, I could, yes.
Then would you get back to us and we would be able to put you in touch with the association's work if you're successful?
Yes, I could, no bother.
Marvellous, no bother. Caroline is next in Hull. Caroline, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
I've been listening for a short while, and I think, how does this concept affect bisexuals?
Why do you ask?
Because I'm bisexual myself.
Just so we know where we're coming from.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think you're an absolute case in point. In all probability, you were female in a previous life, or male, and you are going to be male in your next life, or female.
Yeah.
And so this life is merely...
going to be the same as the next.
Yes, it's a sort of a rat run, if you like, in your journey through life.
Oh, right.
I could have put it better. But that one came there into my mouth, and so there it was. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you feel that you are more female, growing more female, or more male, or neither?
No, I mean I've never classed myself as gay or straight.
No.
It's always been down to the relationship and the person.
But does your sexuality feel as though it is in any way on the move, on the hoof? Is it sort of firming up in one way or the other?
No, not really.
But then you're quite young, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm only 24. But I do have 2 children.
Really?
And I would say that I have had more relationships with men than women, but that's not...
no.
That's just the availability. I think there's just not that many gay women, you know.
Men are more available than gay women.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you're right. I think you're right. Although Xena's a great programme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you for your call.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, very interesting. Free call 0500 1053 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There is a good argument for listening.
We're coming to the end of an hour which has been devoted to a radical new theory, and it certainly is not the end of the debate on this one. I can guarantee you that this will be the hottest topic of conversation in San Francisco, Brighton, and plenty of other places, as well as perhaps the bulk of the subcontinent and Japan, two places on Earth where reincarnation is an accepted fact of their chosen beliefs, and an idea which is gathering support in the West, where many people believe there is more homosexuality than in the East. The idea that we've been discussing, if you've just arrived at the radio, is pretty simple, and it's the result of work done at the American New Delhi Research Educational Association. I'm grateful to Dieter Fromm, a former colleague, who faxed me a couple of sides on the work that was being done, and we rushed it straight to you. The idea is perfectly simple. It is, could homosexuality be explained by reincarnation, and that it is a transitory phase which an immortal soul enjoys from having been a male to being a female? The free call 0500 10 53 89. Steve calls now from Newcastle. You're on Talk Radio, Steve. Good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy.
Steve.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. You've really got me thinking here, because I'm a gay man.
Yeah.
And I live with a partner who we've been together for nearly 20 years now. And I'm just trying to figure this one out in my head. Is it possible that in a previous life we were both women and we're actually now living together partly because of our past existence? This is one question here, which means that in a sense we as gay men are actually lesbians, because we were both women in a previous life, and we recognise that in each other.
Yes, you're able to identify the femininity in each other, yes. Of course, unless you... It's perfectly possible that one of you were a male on your way to being a female.
Yes, and one of your researchers actually said that to me, and that really stumped me.
Oh. We don't want you stumped.
Right. So it's possible that one of us is going in one direction from male to female, and another is going from female to male.
Exactly.
We're in a transitional period now.
Yes, and we're all waiting for this research to land with a thud on our desk. And we're able to say, I suspect not that this is certainly clearly the case, but we may choose to believe that it's likely. And by God, Steve, it's as good a theory as I've ever heard on homosexuality.
Yes, except that, I mean, I do have to refer back to the previous call. I mean, there is this point about, why do we always have to worry about what are the causes of things?
That's a separate conversation.
Okay.
That's a separate conversation, isn't it?
I understand that.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's boring, actually, because everybody who's homosexual always says it. Why do we have to talk about why talk about homosexuality? Well, why not? Why talk about anything?
Sure.
Well, but if we were to find out that there is a reason, a very valid reason for homosexuality, that would be interesting. No more or less than that.
Right, yeah.
Just interesting.
And it's value-free, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
I think you tell us about the value of it.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting, and if you find out what causes anything, then it's only men who died a long time ago and are still walking around who aren't interested in that.
Right.
Mind you, there's plenty of those.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Thanks for your call, Steve. Loved your partner. Danny calls from Gloucester. Danny, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hi. I'm ringing about the reincarnation aspect of this.
Yes.
The entire research, from what I've heard, is based on regressional therapy.
Largely, yes.
Yes.
Also based on the idea that, for reincarnation?
Yes.
Well, also based on what an awful lot of religious people will tell you.
Well, the thing is...
Don't base their notions on regression.
Yeah, but I'm a religious person myself. And from what I know about reincarnation, you cannot regress into it, because you forget about your last life, and you have no knowledge of it.
How old are you?
I'm 15.
Well, you've got a lot to learn, haven't you?
I have.
With the greatest of respect.
But, I'm a Hindu. So I know, yeah. So, I mean, we probably know the most about it.
You do?
Or respect.
Right, pulling rank. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And do you think that homosexuals could be people who are on their way from being a soul of one gender to a soul of another gender?
To be honest, I don't think it matters. Because it's their choice this life.
No, it doesn't. Everything matters.
It doesn't. No.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't matter for them.
You're young. I am young, and you're lazy. And so when something makes you think, you say, "I don't think it matters." It does matter. Everything matters because everything's interesting, provided you're awake and alert.
No, that's not what I said. What I said was, I don't think it matters that their soul might be in transit. What I think matters is the fact that they've chosen to be homosexual this life.
I'm not interested in what matters.
Okay, it's interesting.
What matters is irrelevant. What matters is so boring because it's just one person's opinion. And usually they haven't got anything to back it up. But what is interesting is what can be shown, what can be scientifically proven. Cause and effect. Well, that's why we're here this afternoon, Danny, and why we're here every afternoon. To bring some clarity and some gravitas to the debate. Not to bandy shallow, vapid opinion around. You can get that on any street corner. I nearly said in any pub, but you're a Hindu, aren't you?
Yeah.
And a young one at that. Enough. 2 reasons never to go in the pub, Danny. Thanks for your call.
Well, fair enough. Hang on.
What do you mean, hang on? What about the news? Maria Duarte
I'm sorry.
Bored.
I'm sorry.
What? Well, ask Maria Duarte if you can have another 30 seconds.
Okay, please now have another 30 seconds.
What did she say? She said no, so clear off.
This is definitely not Bob putting a funny voice on. Click like and subscribe to the Tommy Boyd Shrine YouTube channel, and we may get more Bob Staunton. Now, if you'll excuse me, I am going to stick laxatives in Tommy Boyd's coffee. If he won't call it quits, I'll make him strain with the squits.